Welcome to Athens Politics Nerd. Today I've got an interview with interim ACC Clerk of Courts Elisa Zarate. She's running in a special election on November 7th against her opponent Andrew Griffeth. Griffith actually declined an interview with me when I let him know that I would ask about his party affiliation. So we're not going to hear from him today. For your information, Griffith takes Republican ballots in primaries. Okay, here's Elisa Zarate, who's running to fill the remainder of Beverly Logan's term as ACC Clerk of Courts. Thanks for coming on the show, Elisa.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're the acting Clerk of Courts right now, is that right?
That's correct. I'm the Clerk of State and Superior Court. I was appointed to this position on June 1st. I've been in this position since then after former clerk Beverly Logan retired after 30 years of service. There was an interview process. I was one of 5 applicants who applied for the position of interim clerk, and I was selected from that group of candidates.
Okay. And what does the Clerk of Courts do? Because I think a lot of people, even if they're very active in like the voting in the community, they don't necessarily know much about the courthouse and what goes on there. So tell us what you do as the Clerk of Courts.
Sure. We handle, most people are probably familiar with the jury process because they probably received a letter or a summons from Miss Logan in the last 30 years. So we are in charge of handling the jury process. One of the main duties of the Clerk of Court, I am the custodian of the records. I receive all civil and criminal court filings that are coming from state and superior court. We are also the custodian of land records, property records, so we maintain all of those records, deeds and plats. Our records go back to 1801, so we have a long history of records that we retain. By statute, we have to keep certain records for a certain amount of time. We do have a lot of our records that have been digitized and they're accessible to the public online. There's a lot that we do that people probably don't realize. I'm the appeal administrator for the Board of Equalization. So if a property owner wants to appeal their taxes, that's another thing that's handled by my office. We would schedule these hearings with the tax assessor's office if there's a property owner who wants to appeal their taxes.
Hey, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And how long have you lived in Athens?
I've lived in Athens since 2005. I moved here shortly after completing my bachelor's degree. I was in Milledgeville, and I moved here to attend the University of Georgia. That's where I got my master's degree from. And I have a 6-year-old son, a husband named Zach, and we've started a family here, and we love Athens, and this is our home and community, and we're not really planning on going anywhere. So Athens is a great place to be.
And what do you think are the most important qualities for voters to consider when selecting the next ACC Clerk of Courts?
I think experience. I've been in the judicial system, the Athens-Clarke County judicial system, for over 10 years. I spent the first 7 years working as the program coordinator for the Treatment and Accountability Court. That's one of 5 treatment courts in our circuit. And I've also served as a court administrator for 3 years prior to my appointment. And in that capacity, I worked for all 13 judges, served 6 levels of courts. So I think to me, some of the qualities that are important is to understand all of the different judicial partners. In my different roles, I've worked alongside so many different people, from judges and attorneys, defense attorneys, prosecutors. I've also worked with the defendants and the victims. So I think just having an understanding of the people that we serve, the people that are coming through the courthouse, I think it's important to have someone in that position who kind of understands those relationships and those complexities. In addition to working in the judicial system, I've worked very closely with our county officials and other county departments. So understanding just kind of the administrative side of running an office, I think that is critical.
And how many people work in your office?
Currently, I have 21 people working for me. And that is, we have several divisions. We have a criminal division, a civil division, a real estate division. We have a special projects division as well. And then we have the jury division.
Oh, and your background, you mentioned that you got your master's from UGA. Was that in like criminal justice?
No, I received my master's in social work. That was 2005 to 2007. And that's kind of how I got started in the criminal justice field. I was working for an organization. Well, it was AIDS Athens at the time. Now it's Live Forward. That's in the nonprofit sector. But then I kind of segued into working with individuals with mental illness, substance use disorders, and just that intersection of behavioral health with criminal justice is how I got involved.
Okay. I know the qualifications for this position are mostly, experience, leadership skills, or organization. But a lot of voters do care about things like party identity. And I know this is a nonpartisan race, but I was just wondering if there was one party that you identify with more than the other one.
Right, sure. I'm happy to answer that. The ACC Clarke Dems just announced their endorsement of me, so I think it's pretty obvious that my party affiliation is with the Democrats. But I serve everybody. I do believe that my role as clerk is to serve everyone regardless of party affiliation. And the Clerk of Courts office, it's not an office where my own political beliefs will necessarily influence some of the decisions that I make there. I mean, my job as clerk is to follow the law and just to make sure that we're doing our job to make sure that the courts are running efficiently.
Yeah, I don't think there's much political or partisan content to this, so I did want to mention that. So if you're elected, is there anything in particular you want to accomplish in the Clerk of Courts office that would be different from what Beverly Logan did? Or is it mostly about just keeping things moving along in the same direction and doing a good job?
Well, I've been in this position since June. I was fortunate to walk into an office with incredible staff. And Miss Logan, she was there, the clerk for 30 years, and she laid a great foundation. So the office is run very well. My goal is to continue it running well. But I also understand that times change, technology changes, there's always change. So I'm always open to innovation. I think for me right now, it's important to kind of learn everything and observe and understand the way information flows through the office before I make any major changes.
I think a lot of people would be interested to look at some of those really older documents, from the early 1800s.
They are very old. Some are very fragile, and probably it's probably not safe to handle them without them kind of deteriorating. So that's part of the reason why we are working on digitizing some of those records, and all records really. The goal is to have everything digitized at some point, and just to make it more accessible. If you come into the Clerk of Courts office, you'll see stacks of books and documents and old newspapers, and we're limited on space. So by digitizing some of these old records, we can move them off-site, but still have them accessible to the public.
Do you have any idea of when that process will be completed?
It's an ongoing process, yes. It started, with Ms. Logan. I mean, that was a big project for her and something that I know she cared about, and I would like to continue that as well. But not only do they have to be digitized, but we have to index our records according to state standards. So I believe right now they are going back to 1984, but we've recently committed all the way to 1970 or 1973.
Okay, so this is a long-term project, is what you're saying.
It's a long-term project, yes. And that's, you asked what are some of the important skills that are necessary for a clerk to have, and part of that is looking at the big picture, but also being able to approach our county government. And that's something that we have to do every year during budget season, is request capital funds to keep this project going, to digitize another set of years.
So is there anything else you want to add? For example, why should voters vote for you on November 7th?
Sure. Well, I would appreciate everyone's support and vote. I feel like I'm the most qualified candidate for this position. I've been with the courts for 10 years. I've worked with all 13 judges and other retired judges. I think I understand a lot of those complex relationships in the courthouse, and not from just one perspective. Working with court administration and working with the Treatment and Accountability Court, you kind of gain a different perspective on things. And I would think it's a unique perspective that other individuals might not have. I'm a people person. I'm a public servant. I like serving my community. I don't just think of this as a job. I've always done my civic duty outside of the normal business hours. I work around the clock now, but I'm out in the community, and there's a reason why people are supporting me, because they know me. Like, I'm out there day to day. It's not just something that I'm doing because I am wanting to be the clerk of court. I mean, I do want to be the clerk of court, but it's something that I've always just done. And I think public service and being a public servant is important.
Thanks for listening, and thanks to Elisa for coming on the show. This election is coming up soon on November 7th, and early voting starts on October 16th. This is the only thing on the ballot unless you live in Winterville, where you'll also have a choice for city council. Happy fall, everybody.